Well, when you come, you gotta
Yep.
nod.
All right, ready?
So like up here, if you
Okay.
have it. That was pointless.
Okay.
Hi and welcome to Factbird's Manufacturing Matters podcast. I'm Michael and today I'm talking to Andrew about how to reduce waste in the food and beverage manufacturing industry. Hi Andrew.
Hey, how's it going?
That's good.
Yeah.
On a not so sunny day in Copenhagen. Thanks for flying over from the US.
Yeah, no
Not
problem.
just for this podcast, right?
Not just for the podcast, meet the team and kind of grow together as a company.
Yeah, it's really good. So just to kick things off, could you tell us a little bit about your background?
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
So my name's Andrew Jarrells, head of sales for the US for Factbird. I've spent about 15 years in the manufacturing industry, predominantly in automation, process improvement, mostly in the sales capacity, commercial capacity, but have spent a few years in product development as well as a little bit marketing, mostly serving CPG, food and beverage markets.
Yep. And yeah, so we're really lucky to have Andrew join us in Factbird and sort of help guide the US team through this really exciting growth stage that we're going through.
Very exciting. The team's almost tripled in terms of headcount. We're growing market share. New products are being released, and it's a really exciting time for us.
Yeah, if you're looking for a career at Factbird and you're in the US, check out our jobs page and get in touch with this guy. But so yeah, we're talking about waste in the food and beverage manufacturing industry. That's something that's kind of the bread and butter of Factbird. Sorry. And it's a topic that you know a fair bit about,
I do.
which is really good. But first, we need to sort of set the scene. What are we talking about when we're talking about waste in food and beverage manufacturing?
Sure, I think oftentimes waste is seen as maybe just wasted product or wasted time, but it's a multitude of things that not only affect profit, but also efficiency. We're looking at overproduction, scrap, wasted raw materials, some of the aforementioned pieces.
Yeah. So it's there's many different types of waste that come into production.
Correct.
You guys know about that. Why is it important?
So it's important because it all affects your bottom line. If we're running inefficiently, if we're wasting raw materials, energy, there's so many factors that go into that. As the markets are getting more demanding, competition is increasing. If I look at the CPG and food and beverage space in particular, the consumers want variance. They want a low price. They want availability. All these manufacturing issues, specifically around waste, can affect that.
Yeah, so waste in the food and beverage industry, it's many different things. So it could be food waste literally falling on the floor of a line. It could be energy, like overuse of energy.
Absolutely.
Gas, electricity, whatever. It could be a lot of rework, could be a lot of scrap, could be packaging issues, could be quality issues, many different things. So why is this such an issue? Why is it something that people are particularly aware of right now?
Yeah, absolutely. With growing concerns over not only supply chain from geopolitical or just raw material availability, there's growing concerns in popularity with ESG groups because everything drives profitability. If we're spending more money or wasting money on electricity, raw material, overproduction, that's hurting our bottom line. With margins getting a little bit tighter every day, the industry is full of competition. Consumers want more for less money.
Yep.
The way that we can drive that cost and that profitability for our internal customers is to help with that, to increase optimization, improve efficiency, increase throughput, reduce waste. And that can all be done through not only some due diligence, but also through utilizing new technology.
Yeah, so there's basically profits being left on the factory floor, right?
Absolutely.
And food and beverage manufacturing in particular. So, and all of that adds up to it's eating into people's profits. And as markets get tighter, competition increases, inputs, the cost of inputs increase, consumer demands change, and you need to be more agile. Then every single dollar counts, right?
Absolutely, and I think you nailed it, using the term agile. If we look at it, most people, most enterprises in the CPG and food and beverage space, there's aging equipment. It's incredibly inefficient. It's not optimized for industry standards where we're actually able to pull data and create these insights to better produce these goods. So when we look at the agility, it's how do we take these aging assets, combine them with new manufacturing technologies to get the most out of them, to leverage these insights
Yeah.
so that we can really maximize not only our throughput, but our profit. Things
Yeah.
are getting expensive.
Yeah, so when you buy equipment in manufacturing, it's not like a 5-year sort of horizon. There's
No.
machines that have been around for 30, 40, 50 years because, yeah, parts have
Absolutely.
grown sort of organically. Maybe they started, one line baking bread and then that company's found some success and just grown and grown, but the original
Absolutely.
machines are still around. And they work well, but
Yeah,
yeah,
well built.
yeah, but it's not easy to measure what's happening on them, I guess.
Yeah, I think when we look at the topic of ESG and sustainability that's coming up more and more, those machines weren't designed in a time when that was even a thought.
Yeah,
Electricity usage wasn't a concern. Availability on raw materials wasn't a concern. Things were a lot less expensive at the time, regardless of industry. So now that we're trying to modernize them, it's vital to get that data out. It's vital to be optimal,
yeah.
and how are companies doing it?
Yeah. I want to stick on the why is it important a little bit more part. So we've talked a lot about, so everything affects your bottom line.
Absolutely.
I've also seen there's a lot happening, sort of external pressures coming in as well with the regulation in that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. With government regulations coming in, industry standards are coming in, they're being enforced, And when we look at it too, especially in this industry, consumers want to see that the products they're buying are sustainable.
Yeah.
It's becoming more of a consumer-driven demand as well.
I always worry, like I'm from New Zealand, but I've lived in Europe a long time, and in Europe, I'd say it's relatively regulated compared to other regions in the world. But it's the same in the US. Yeah, it's still like more and more regulations coming in with sustainability, even with the change in governments and all of that.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I think if we look globally, the supply chain's being stretched.
True.
If we look at material availability, our population's growing. We're utilizing more raw materials. There's just more consumed.
Yep.
It's vital to not only get in and I mean, yes, you can start with recycling. You can look at electricity gains through LED, but where we see a massive gain in the realm of ESG and sustainability is looking at your manufacturing floor, is evaluating that, doing some due diligence on it, and then really understanding how to impact that.
Yeah, so we got saving money basically through reducing waste. We've got sort of keeping up with regulations and working more efficiently with your supply chain. And then there's another one of just generally, if the more efficient you are, the more resilient you are, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
As we see, times are changing. I mean, look how technology's grown just in the private sector over the last 10 years.
Yeah.
Think about that being amplified in manufacturing. And then you couple that with the point you made earlier. Some of these assets are 30 years old. How do we modernize it? How do you get something that's 30 years old to perform, like a newer piece of technology? You have to look in ways of doing that. You have to really reevaluate your complete process. So it does become something where we bring in added technology. We utilize new manufacturing methodologies to produce something better, faster, and more efficiently.
So how do we do that?
How do we do that? That's a great question. And I think it does vary by process, but when we look at a solution like Factbird, we can actually come in, gather your data, and aggregate it. We actually then can take that and do some analytics for you. And we'll actually be able to dashboard that and show you where your stop times are, show you the inefficiencies and say something like changeover, show the usage. We can look at current in some areas. So if we're looking at different ESG KPIs, we can really tailor that. And the value of that right there is that now that data is known. We're taking something that might be put on a clipboard, something that maybe just the operator knows how many they're producing. We're taking all that data from multiple sources. We're putting it on a live dashboard that is in real time. So if I'm a plant manager, success for me would be coming into my meeting Monday morning, being armed with this data versus my targets, and being able to speak fluently to my maybe board members, to my colleagues on real data that's not maybe guesswork, that's not with a lag or delayed, and just be able to speak confidently about our process. We also can identify those issues and maybe those bottlenecks and really put focus in on those.
Yeah.
So instead of just fixing, a Band-Aid solution for, say, my whole line, if it's a bottling line, I can go to a very specific asset, a very specific location, and address the root cause. So we're getting, on any given day, an easy 10 to 20% uplift in these markets just by deploying Factbird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So what you're saying is basically you need to have data, you need to have visibility. So if you want to reduce waste, you need to know where that waste is happening and be able to prioritize the way you spend time and trying to improve, I guess.
Absolutely. An example comes to mind where you're talking about knowing where to spend your time. I spent many years also supporting the automotive sector. If we can think of a full assembly line, there's a lot of pneumatic powered tools. It takes very large air compressors to run that, which is eating away at your electricity. It's quite literally just consuming massive amounts of electricity, which is probably one of the more expensive, I'd say, cost on the floor. This particular manufacturer was really looking into their consumption in terms of electricity. When it came down to it, it was actually during break. If you look at a 24-hour facility, they're taking multiple breaks a day. You have
the whole line just
the
goes
whole
away.
line goes dead, but your air compressors are still running. Those tools are still turned on, thousands of lines. So we actually did a study where we came in and we looked at the power consumption of these machines, specifically the compressors. And we were actually able to have a 6-figure reduction in the electricity usage just by being able to monitor the electricity and realize that it's which air compressor is less efficient, which lines are left on longer during those breaks. And keep in mind, those breaks are 15 minutes long. So the ability to maybe mitigate, let's say, an hour and a half of wasted time daily, you compound that over the year, that's a substantial savings. But you can't do that without data. You can't do that without the ability to pull this data from an aging asset. I mean, the air compressors I mentioned were probably older than you and I. They're 30 years old. They're rusty. They're incredibly
I'm older than
inefficient.
30 years old.
I'm trying
Don't
to
you
get you
worry about that.
You can cut that. But
Good. Do you know, how did you actually measure the electricity consumption on the machines?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think anytime you walk into a plant and you speak to most people, we can assume what we're utilizing.
Yeah.
And in this case, we know we're using a decent amount of electricity with these. All compressors will use a lot. What we actually did was we took a current monitor. It actually goes on the leg of the motor going into it. It goes on the control panels. So we can actually monitor what's being used and when. So we get a voltage reading. We actually let that run for a couple weeks so that we get a really solid baseline and we can understand the trends. And you can actually look at it when it's displayed graphically. You see peaks and valleys, right? And you can kind of normalize that. But then you tie that up into maybe the timing of the breaks.
Exactly.
And you see that, you overlay that on production. It's a massive kind of delta between production output and power usage in those breaks. And again, it's 15-minute sections, but quantify that over a year and it's substantial.
It adds up.
Yes.
I know at Factbird there's a couple of options. I guess it's the same everywhere. So you can get these clips that you can basically put over the power cables.
Absolutely.
And just measure on off more or less. And then the other option is the more involved method of having like an energy meter that you actually install in the machine, right?
Yeah, absolutely. There's always a ton of options.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Really any input.
yeah, it's not hard to get the data. You just got to start getting it.
Well, I think it's just taking the initiative to do it.
Yeah.
And that's probably the hardest first step, because when you go on this data-driven journey, you're essentially, the hardest part is change management.
So it's like a mental thing
Exactly.
rather than a technology thing.
It's a little bit more work in some eyes, but it's really not. When you think about it, we're logging that data anyway, whether it be a paper-based system on a clipboard, into an Excel file, into just our standard reporting structure in the manufacturing space. Let's digitize that. Let's put a little extra work in throwing a sensor in or putting a power meter.
Yep.
And being able to read that, and then it's automated. So it's a little bit of time investment in the beginning for, years of automation.
Yeah. So it's actually a common problem we've had, especially with the smaller companies, right? I've heard of breweries or beverage makers that they're too busy to have a 30-minute meeting to start measuring what's happening on their lines.
Absolutely.
But it's like that common issue of like when you feel so busy, the way to get out of that is sort of stepping back a bit and looking like, how can I improve this in the long term and invest some time.
Absolutely.
The ROI of it's awesome. I guess we've just got to get better at showing people that, like, if you invest this amount of time now on doing this, then you're going to save this much time down the line, and money and so forth.
Absolutely. And Everybody wants to save and profit. Everybody wants to, or everyone wants to increase profit, save money on materials. Most companies aren't the only company doing that, but I think something to really look at, and you mentioned it, is time. If I put myself in maybe an operations manager or director role, even for a small to mid-market plant like you mentioned, my daily reports coming in, the data that I have to digest to make a decision is coming from multiple sources. It's on a delay, as we mentioned earlier. So in the back of my mind, can I really trust that data? It's not pulled directly from the machine in some cases.
Yep.
It's an estimate. So when we look at saving time and having efficient conversations and data-driven decisions, we need to take that time. And I do see it being something where right now it's a nice to have in the industry. It's great to have the data. It's great to have these sensors. But in the very near future, it's going to be a must-have. It's going to be a non-negotiable that we need all the data we can get. Data makes decisions.
Yeah, and useful data, so making it useful with tools like Factbird.
Exactly.
Yeah. We were talking to one customer recently where, they were doing the sort of writing everything down, the downtime, tabulating it in Excel or something. And then they thought their ROE was at 85. People had a feeling that wasn't correct.
Yeah.
Turns out, like, once they actually started measuring it in an automated way, then it was more like 40.
Yeah.
So you just got to understand your reality properly before you can make a decision. Data is what gets you there, like you say.
Absolutely. And I'd say that's probably the case for most plants. We seem efficient because we're maybe hitting our, let's say, cases produced. We're maybe hitting a KPI. But then when you look at the efficiency, to your point, when we pull in the OEE data, when we really take a good look at how we're manufacturing and what's important, and we eliminate bottlenecks, we eliminate downtime, that's when you can really smash those efficiency targets. You can push out your KPIs. You can produce more efficiently, waste less money, ultimately making more money. So it is something where I think that more people need to do it.
It's also it's a defensive play as well, so it just makes you
Absolutely.
more resilient as, like, whatever external shock comes along in the world, prices, whatever, supply chain issues.
Well, and if I look at it, from the U.S. too, we're looking at a lot of tariffs on raw goods coming in. There's a lot of, not only to your point, environmental concerns, but geopolitically right now in the time and place that we live, that puts a massive strain on the manufacturing industry as a whole.
And planning and
Exactly. So to your point, when we can become more resilient through data-driven decisions, through efficiency, that lets us weather the storms, that are kind of trickling down. So
yeah, it's awesome. And sort of getting back to what you were saying before with energy efficiency. So that was, I hadn't heard of the the automobile sort of in the automobile industry. How I sort of think of that as relatively efficient, but not the case. And then I've heard it a few times also with this isn't for food and beverage either, but with a customer of ours, Danfoss, where it was like their machines were on standby when there was no activity online, and then just actually turning them off, then they had like a 15 or 20% saving in costs or something. Do you have any other examples of people that have reduced waste in food and beverage, or how they've become more efficient?
I do. One that really sticks out, there's an incredibly large CPG firm that is based in the U.S. That we were supporting. They had an ESG commitment, not only to their stockholders, but to their customers. When we actually went and looked, it's another power usage example. They made a commitment to reduce electricity usage within 2 years by 30%. Where do you start? If you're this multinational corporation, how do you start that? You have hundreds of manufacturing facilities. What do we look at? After kind of spitballing some ideas, we looked at the AC units. A lot of their plants that produce this particular product are actually located in the southern U.S., very hot, very humid. So they're actually running the ACs for the plants, large open air building, to not only keep the frontline cool, but to help with product. To keep condensation off the packaging. So they're really cranking these AC units. We deployed a couple energy monitors. We actually digitized their data. We're able to pinpoint bottlenecks and actually eliminate that. The way we did that is we got more efficient AC units, which initially, yes, massive increase. We also looked at production timing. we looked at it on a product specific focus where if we're producing product A, we're actually utilizing more power and there's more workers and we're actually doing it during the day. Where temperatures in the plant can be about 110 degrees in southern Louisiana. I don't know if you've ever been, but very hot, very humid.
Okay.
So what we actually did is when we invested in new AC units, they actually took the production of that material and actually ran that through the night shift. So they didn't have to crank the AC. They didn't have to leave the doors open because it wasn't as hot. And it sounds like a simple fix. That actually netted hundreds of thousands of dollars per plant on your electricity usage because you did cut it down by 20-25%.
Wow.
We can find that other 5% somewhere else. But the client was so pleased with the result, it actually led into other manufacturing principles. So if we can monitor electricity and get that usage, what else can we do? What can we do line side? So we look at throughput and we start looking at the product specific applications and the counts and how to eliminate the bottlenecks there. So we started looking at the massive conveyor belts and how they're jamming. So a simple counting operation where we can send a red flag, we send an and-on alert. We can go
Every
look
time
at
there's
it
a
quicker.
jam.
Yes,
Yep.
exactly. And it just makes that resolution a little bit quicker.
Yeah, that's a simple one.
Very simple.
Yep.
You have a sensor to the program. If I'm a maintenance person, I get a text message that there's a line jam. I can run to it quickly, and that seems very simple. But in traditional ways, you've got to think about it. We have to stop the line. If I'm a frontline operator, I have to go find someone in maintenance, find someone in engineering. We have to clear the line. We have to restart the line.
Yep.
This way, I get a text. I can come fix it, and we're back up and running. And that reduces that downtime.
Yep.
It's another way to do it. But you do that by identifying bottlenecks.
Yeah, that's fascinating. So just the simple ones of just being able to count something and get an alert is really important. I've heard a lot like with energy efficiency and reducing waste in food and beverage in general is comparing. So when you have these sort of counts, so you've got your production counts and then you're tracking your downtime, assigning it to different reasons, like different reason codes, and then sort of correlating that or comparing that to these process parameters. So energy consumption, temperature in the building at the time, all these different things. Then you find out quite interesting stuff like I heard of an example in a factory and always lots of problems in packaging from what I hear.
Yes.
But yeah, the temperature, so there was, if the temperature was in a certain range in the packaging area, then there were less issues
Yes.
with folding or something than if it was like over a certain temperature or under a certain temperature. Or labels sticking
Yes,
to
absolutely.
things. Really important. And you can really track that if you can compare like downtime or throughput to what's happening in the environment, like temperature wise. Or,
Absolutely.
yeah, I've also heard of other ones where with vision systems as well, like with packaging. So
Absolutely.
yeah, so you sort of spot something's going down all the time. If nobody's there to see it, you just like, oh, this keeps happening, but you don't really know why. If you've got a camera set up there that you can correlate to your downtime, you sort of click on a button and see the footage at the time. You might see like, oh, the packaging's coming in the wrong angle or something like that.
Absolutely. And I think that's a really good utilization of technology. I mean, cameras are becoming less and less expensive, especially
And the
in automation.
data as well.
And the data, I mean, we can link that to so many systems now. And again, we go back to alerting and being able to identify the root cause. They may not know that box is shifting. You're not going to look at the physical packaging. You're looking at the line, you're looking at the conveyor belt, you're looking at almost everything else but how the box is being positioned when it's coming in. And that's a simple fix where that saves you a ton of time and a ton of energy.
Yeah, because it's a line, right? So if something
Absolutely.
goes wrong somewhere, it becomes very expensive.
Absolutely. And when we talk about going back to root causes and being able to identify that quickly, that's a really powerful tool when you think about it. Traditionally, you're searching the whole line, right? If I know exactly where it is and what data point I need to address, it's done.
Okay.
And then we can address it completely.
Yeah. Well, there we go. Reducing waste in the food and beverage industry. No surprises there.
No.
You gotta have data. You gotta have visibility. You gotta have
Yes.
reliable data, and you gotta be able to invest time in it so that the cultural shift as well.
I agree. And it's quick decisions
Yeah.
based on data.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for
Yeah.
your time, Andrew.
Yeah, thank you. This is great.
Enjoy the rest of your stay in kind of sunny now, Copenhagen.
Yeah, I will. All right. Thank you.
Thanks for listening.
Yes. Bye. That was okay.
That was pretty good, right, Gabriel?
Tell me it
amazing.
sucked.
This is as much as he smiles. He's still recording.
Yeah.